Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Mel here. I hope everyone is well and I hope you're having a great week so far. What have you guys been up to? Have you had some crafty fun this week? Now, before I get started, thank you to everyone that entered my competition and also to all those lovely comments that everyone left. Keep your eyes peeled, there'll be a separate post announcing the winner. It will be live a few hours after this one, so watch out for that. Now today is going to be a little bit different. We are not actually doing a full tutorial. I'm just going to show you some hints and tips on colouring techniques. I was asked if I would do that, so here it is. So how do I go about colouring? I usually stick with my markers. I love my alcohol markers. I used to use pro markers right at the beginning. Then I moved on to Spectrum Noir because I was lucky enough to be part of the design team many years ago. Then recently I use my Copic markers, but I also have a Hoo Hoo markers, and also I have ones that I got from Craft Stash, which are a great beginner marker if anyone is looking for that. Again, I'll leave links to everything I used today, you'll see it below. But the main things when you start with markers or even pencils or any type of colouring medium, you want to have a colour chart. Now, I don't have my Copic ones because as you can see I have some sort of watermarks all over everything, and I had set a wet wipe on top. So these are just some that I have. So the Hoo Hoo ones, then you've got the Creative Craft ones. These are my Spectrum Noir ones. I did have one for my pencils, but I can't find that either. But this I just like to see. So I usually colour this on the papers that I use for my stamping or printing. Now, two main things that you want to do for your colouring is use the best products you can afford. So whether that be your cardstock itself, so I use Nina Classic Crest most of the time. I have this one that I got from Crafter's Companion, but I also have the Nina Classic Crest which comes in the yellow packaging that I get from Amazon. But either of these are very the same, one's just slightly thicker than the other, but you want a nice ultra smooth one for putting your markers on. For pencils, I'd say they work great, but you want something more with a little bite. So you need to test that for your own preference. I also have this Crafting Companion again white multi-purpose card. Now this is a great alternative if you can't afford to buy the Nina Classic Crest, because it's smooth and it's great for ink blending, but you will get a slight little bleed, so please be aware of that. Don't be too heavy-handed with lots of ink on top of ink because you will get a slight bleed, but this is a great alternative. Other things you do get from Crafters, Craft Stash do a great one, also a lot of other companies, but these are just the ones I use, so whatever you can afford, use. Next is your ink. You want to use an ink that will work with your markers. So I use, sorry it's just over here, I always use Memento. It is my favourite ink, it never lets me down, I've never had any bleeds. But you could also use this Pink Fresh Studio one. I've only used it once or twice, but I did have a slight bleed when I used it with watercolour, so be aware of that. But this worked great. You have loads of other companies. You could also use some stamp and heat embossing, but beware that can ruin the tips of your markers. So just know, test things and try it out. Now, as I said before, I have used markers for many years, starting with my pro markers, which I still have under my desk somewhere. Then I moved on to Spectrum Noirs. Now, I don't really have a lot of them left because they went really dry, but I do have some of my tri-blend markers, which are great for beginners because you've got your 3 colours sets in it, your dark, medium and light, which is the best way to start colouring. I'll show you that. But then I have my Copics, which I absolutely love, and I have every single one of them, so I can go from whatever colour blend I need to. Then I have my Prismacolors, which again I absolutely love these, and you can see they're well loved, and these are great. I can show you how I use these with my markers if that's something you'd like to see, or just to show you how these work by themselves. But I love colouring, it is one of my favourite things to do just to pass time. So if I show you some wee bits and pieces before we get started with the hints and tips, it will show you what you can do. Now, I don't know if anyone knows Hannah Lynn. She does the most gorgeous, girly sort of mermaids and mystical fantasy images. Some people don't like them because they don't really have noses, but I love to spend time colouring them, and these ones I have coloured with my pencils. I just absolutely loved colouring these. Because the paper has a slight texture, it was great to get the bite that you need when using colour pencils. And, oh sorry, you can see just what you can achieve with the pencils. Also, I have ones, so this was done with my Spectrum Noirs, and this is a very old stamp from something in Sassy, I think it was, I can't remember right. Here's one that I've done with my Copics, and this is some Monfon little stamps, and I've done an ink blended background, and it's just to show you what you can do. You don't need to be a big image. And then I've got this here that I used my Ahuhu markers with, but I also added some detail with my pencils. If I do that, you'll see the light just hits it where the pencil is. And then I have another one with my, this would be my Pro markers, it's a very old one. And if you remember this was my Copics. And again, here's another one I used my Copics with. So I will get tidied up and then we'll get on with some hints and tips. Off camera, I have stamped a little butterfly. You could use anything, but I've just used this little butterfly set that I had in my stash, and it's just to show you quickly how I go about picking my ink blends from my darkness to my light, or my light to dark. It depends how you like to colour. Now, I know a lot of people say you should start light to dark, and then other people say dark to light. It's really up to you. I always go dark to light, it's just the way I like to do it, but you can go light to dark. Just remember to leave the slight bit of space for your light coming in. Now also, you want to decide where your light's coming from. So say for instance, you can either have your light coming here, here, or even from the top or from the bottom. So if your light's coming from one of these directions, we'll say from this side first, then your darkness is going to be on this side. If it's from this side, then your darkness is the opposite side. Same as from above or below, your darkness will be the opposite way. Now, I've brought out one of the tri-blend markers because it goes your dark to light. So this is the dark red blend, and I'm just going to show you quickly what I do. So if I can get it off. So the dark red blend is DR4 for the darkest, DR3 and DR1. And all I do, so starting with this butterfly here, I'm going to have my light coming this way. So I would just go in on the edge. I'm not going to be really fancy about this. And then because that would have a shadow under it, but you'd also have a little bit here because the body sits above it. I'm not going to be really fancy about this. Then I would go in with my medium, which is the DR3, and then I would just build that up. And a wee bit here. And then with my lightest, which is the DR1, if it wants to come off, and then I would just come in, go over the top, and then I would go over it all one more time. Now if you want, you could leave a white space. I don't really like a white space, but some people do. Now this isn't necessary, but I do like to go back over what I've done because I like to be able to see that shadow. Some people don't, but I do, so I'll go back medium, then my dark again, just a teeny bit highlight, just to show where that shadow was, just like that. That's all I would do. You can see here, I mean it's not perfect, but it's just showing you. Now I do the same with my Copics. So with my Copics this time I'm going to do the dark red, so I've went for R89 and I'm just going to come in and do the same as we've done. Again, I'm not being fancy at all. And then I'll go in with my medium, which is going to be R39. Now there's not much difference with this one, so I might have went with a different colour, but we're colouring now. And then with my light tone, which this time will be R35. Now that's a wee bit of the wrong colour, but I just want to show you the difference. Then I'll go over the whole thing. But this time I'm just going to go in with my darkest. I'm not going to bother with the medium, and I'm just going to do a little bit as such. Now it's not perfect again because this, I'm just showing you quickly what I would do. Now I've looked out some greens and some blues, and I'm just going to show you the same thing. Again, I've got the tri-blend and it's a light green blend, and I'm going to go in with the darkest. I like to make sure that when I'm colouring that my ink is always wet when I'm going back over with my blends, because I want to make sure that it blends. So if your ink dries up, you could take the colour off, or it could go furry, if that makes sense, meaning that you've pulled up the paper itself. And then if we go in with the blue, this time it is the blue turquoise blend. You can see the blue doesn't have a big difference in the colour blend, so if this was what I was going to use, I would maybe go in with one of the other blends of it and lighten it up, going over the top while everything's still wet to lighten it up. You'll see it'll slowly just lighten, and that'll bring it up so you can see a bit more of a colour depth. Next, what I would do is, again, I would make up my colour chart, like I said, using the card stock that I like to use when I'm stamping or when I'm printing out, so that you'll always know the colour shift difference, because some cardstock has a slight yellow hue to it. I don't know if that'll pick up on camera, and some cardstock will have the white hue, so it will look slightly different no matter what cardstock you use. So if you're going to stick with the same cardstock, then stick with your same colour chart, or have a colour chart for both. I hope that makes sense and I'm not just going on and on and on. So now I'm going to show you how I go about my colouring. So I'll just put these away because I'm going to stick with my Copics today, but you can use any, and I hope that helps. As long as you've got 3 markers or 3 colours, or even just 2 will work. Again, if you just use 2, so say for instance if you're going to use your green, you can just use 2. I'm not sure if this is the right colour, but we'll see how it goes. They're a bit different. I can go in and then go back over once or twice, and you'll get the colour depth, and then go back in with the dark one, and that would give you depth. Sorry, that was YG67 and YG45. They're not quite the same colour family, but it shows you that if you go over the top a few times, you will still get shadow shift. If I show you here what I mean, so there's 1 coat, and then if I go back over the top, 2 coats and 3, so you're getting a shadow. Again, you could go over 1 more time to get more of a shadow, and you can see that colour blend shifting to light to dark or dark to light. So you don't need to have loads of fancy pens, you don't need to have brand pens. You can have, as long as you have an alcohol marker and your stamping card with your ink, you can colour. So let's get tidied up, like I said, and we'll move on to a little bit of a project. When I'm planning to make a card or colour an image, I like to match it with pattern papers. Even if I'm not planning to use it right away, I still like to match it with some pattern papers. So I recently bought this new colourway from the Craft Consortium, and it's an Ombre set, and there is some really stunning colourways in this, and I just thought this would be the perfect opportunity to use one of them. I think I might use this one. I think it's just stunning. I mean, with the purple and it going into the orange, it looked really pretty. Or even, I mean, that just looks like a gorgeous sunset, and the camera isn't even showing that as what it actually looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. And then you're going into your deep oranges, and then you've got your turquoise and water tones. Maybe even one of these would be quite nice, because I have printed out another 2 of my Hannah Lim images. I will leave a link to the ones these are. I can't remember their exact names, but they came from one of the colouring books that you can download, and then I print them onto my Nina classic crest. And then what I will do before I even get started, I will go in with an eraser and rub over the surface. Now, these were printed about 3 weeks ago, so they will be okay, but I still like to go over the surface with a rubber, because if any of that ink is still lying on the surface and your pen hits it, you will smudge and you'll end up with a muddy mess. So just be aware of that. So I am going to pick one of my papers, dig out my pens and get my colourways all ready and show you how I go about colouring. I've dug out all the pens that I'm planning to use. It seems a lot, but it's not really, because I've just put them in the colour groups just so you can see what I'm doing. And I made a quick little chart up, and I actually went with this sunset paper to match in. I haven't perfectly matched this colour, but I've got it out just in case, and I've got a spare colour in case I want to use it, which is just underneath. We'll see how we go on, and I'm just going to go with a fair skin tone. But if you want hints and tips on skin tones, there is some great Pinterest posts that will show you great colour combinations. I am not so good with hair and skin combinations. I usually go on and have a peek on Pinterest and see what I can find, but this is my go-to one, which I have here if I'm just doing fair skin. But again, check out Pinterest for all your colour combinations. So I am going to go with one of the Hannah Lim girls, and I have already went over it with a rubber. As you can see, I went and skew-whiffed it a wee bit. I am going to bring this just out to the side just so I can see it and no more, and then I'll put my wee colour chart here at the top so I can see which ones. I've just got a scrap of card that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I hope that is okay for you. And I'm going to start with my skin, and I will try and remember to post the colours that I use, and you can see, maybe not, let's put it here. Yeah, that will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine my light is coming this way, so I will have my shadows starting with my darkest. I hope you can see. I will just come in as such, like so, and then a little bit here. Now I sort of always try and add in a bit of the nose, not the greatest as such, because I like to go over twice anyway, so I'm just going in with a wee quick, and then I work my way down my colours, so darkest to lightest, just going over a little. Then with my palest colour, I go right over all the surface to blend all my colours in. And then I will add in my sort of blush tone, which I'm going to use this R20. I might add in more colour later, but I just want a little bit of blush. Just pop on the eyes as well. And then I'll go back in and add my shadows again, so just bringing it down a bit. I'm not sure if that's here or not, but we'll just leave it as here. And that is me done my skin. Now I know I still have the belly and any other wee bits that are sort of shown, and I will probably go over with my blush just to bring it back out. I might even go back in to bring the nose out a bit more, so when the ink has dried a little, when you go over your darkest colour, it will pop a bit more, so be aware of that. And that is me, how I would do my colour. Now, that's my skin tones. I'm going to keep them out because I still need to use them. Now, you can see that she's wrapped in something. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be, but I want to show you how I'd go about doing the hair. Now I think I'm going to go with the deep orange for the hair, adding in maybe even a bit of the coral tones. Oh, you can't see that. I think I'm going to go with this orange and maybe even into the coral tones, mix up a bit. So how I go about my hair, I don't really care where the light is hitting when I do my hair, because it's all just how I want to do it. And I'll start down here just so you can see where the strands are. So you can see this is a strand here, and what I do is I come into the end, and the start and the end of each strand I'm going to leave a space. I'm going to come in and do some in coral and some in the orange, and then I just continue. I might add a wee bit in the middle if it's a big long piece of hair, and then I just add in like so. Then I'll go in like I do with the skin, I just add in my medium tones. And then in with the lightest ones and just go right through. And again, you'll see me do this all the time. I go back through my colours just to add more depth. But if you're happy with your first layer of colour, stick with it. Then I would go in with the corally ones that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use these in between. So I would just continue that with all my hair. So I'll maybe do this part here. I'm not sure. that, and I would just continue all the way around this hair. Look at this big bit here we could colour. Here we go. Now I'll finish it off camera. You don't need to sit and watch me do it all. One other thing, as I said before, if you prefer to go light to dark, I'll show you how I go about that. So maybe we will go with the main part of the tail being maybe the yellow. We'll try it and see. So what I would do, so this is the lightest, so this is Y13. And what I would do, I would just do a quick all over. I think that's the same sort of bit of the tail, so we'll just do that and that bit there. Not sure if that's definitely tail or not, but it's similar. Then I would go with my medium and I would just sort of drag it down, finding my shadows. And then go in with the darkest. And add in some little dots since it is a bit textured. And that is how you could do it the lighter way. I feel like you don't get as much depth, but that's just my opinion. You don't need to follow that. Now, you don't need to see me colour the whole thing because you're just going through the whole thing doing the same technique, apologies about that, and colouring. You don't need to watch me colour every single part, but I will colour this off camera and we will make something with it in the next video. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I hope this was really useful for some of you. I know it was a wee bit all over. I didn't really know how to go about planning it, but I just wanted to show you some hints and tips on how I go about colouring and show you how my images go from something basic to something that is nice and colourful and bright and just how you want it to look. If I bring in some of the wee images again, I know this is the pencil one, but it just shows you, let's zoom out a bit, it just shows you what you can do. So you can see the pencils, it adds in just that bit more texture you can get with pencils. If you have the fine nibs, you could also add texture with your markers, but obviously Copics, you have the brush nibs, you could change them to fine nibs, sorry, if you want, but I mean, I just like that you can add this texture back in with your pencils. You don't need to keep with that. And then again, with the cards, you can see I added in, so if you just look close, you can just see this is pencil texture that I added in after I did my colouring, just to add that wee bit more shadow. Again, I hope this helps and I hope you enjoyed this. It's really different from what I normally do, and it's just to quickly show you some basic techniques. It's nothing fancy today, but we will turn this into a card next time. So remember guys, keep your eyes peeled for the giveaway winner. It will be in the next video just after this one. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. If you're not already, please subscribe. If this is something you want to see me do in the future, maybe a start to finish colour progress video, let me know in the comments. And until next time guys, bye.